Sometimes what is revealed during a QHHT session, that's quantum healing hypnosis technique, is so mind-blowing, it forces me to continuously stretch my belief system even further. So, if you have an open mind, I want to share with you a couple of my most memorable sessions, including one revealing a life as a vampire. I love that book and movie, Interview with a Vampire. I had no idea I was going to have an interview with one myself, which I'm going to share with you very shortly. Are you ready to open your mind? My name is Tina Worthey. I am a hypnotherapist and quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. I'm all about bridging science and spirituality. Quantum physics is now proving that what the mystics have been trying to tell us all along is fact, not fiction. And I believe that accessing the spiritual, non-physical aspects of ourself is the most direct route for true healing and life transformation. Everything is energy, including our physical, including our thoughts, consciousness. And as such, energy can never be destroyed. It only changes form. The discoveries of quantum physics are proving this to be so. So with this client, I didn't know he was a vampire right away. The memories we're accessing sometimes take a while to fully form. So it becomes my job to coax the memories by asking open-ended questions until we can get a more complete story. So this is how this interview transpired. At first, he described seeing images of 2 streams of blood that followed him off the cloud, which is the technique I use to drop a person into a past life experience. Then he said I'm in a swirl of colors with the color crimson standing out. Then he found himself in this magnificent building with a chandelier and huge paintings on the wall. And again, the color crimson was standing out. He noticed red in the paintings and in the curtains. And he wondered if he was maybe in an art gallery. Suddenly, he goes whoosh through the crimson curtains, and now he's on the outside of the building. He discovers it's a gray cathedral, and he's perched pretty high up on the building, and he's momentarily stuck there. So I ask him, what would he like to do next? He wants to come down to the ground. I ask, how will you do this? And the second after I ask this, he goes from high up on the building, whoosh, down to the ground. And he says he's able to do this through a combination of thought and flight. Then I asked him to describe himself and what he looks like. He says, I'm wearing black pants, black blazer, black vest, white shirt with crimson buttons, and a black cloak. I look very gentlemanlike, got slick jet black hair, and my skin is very pale. Then I asked him approximately what age, and then he said his age is in a suspended state. He doesn't age. So I asked, how did you gain these incredible skills that you seem to possess? And he replied, it's a curse. So I asked, how does he know it's a curse? He said, because it comes with a price necessary to maintain the physical form. We went on to explain that there comes a time when the body must be fed, and this unstoppable urge is known as the bloodlust. So then I asked him to take us back to the day in which it all started. So he's in this dark tavern in medieval Scotland. He's there with his male partner. They want to experience immortality in human form in order to do research on humanity in general over a great span of time. So there's an exchange of coin with a physical contract and someone whom he describes as a witch in exchange for this immortality. And now I want to play you a brief clip from that session when I asked what he's called, because I can't pronounce it. So here we go. What would superstitious people call you? Or refer to you as in their limited belief?
Nosferatu, vampire.
Say that again?
Nosferatu, vampire.
Okay. So there you go. He lived as a vampire for centuries because there's no way out of the curse except to leave the body, although he can't die in the way that we understand it. He was not aware of how strong the bloodlust would be, especially before he learned to set self-imposed limits to the bloodlust. He described a scene where there was much drinking, fornicating, debauchery, and at the end of the night, all the humans were dead. And he said he drank way, way, way too much. At first, it was the alcohol, and then it was the blood. Apparently, vampires lose their inhibitions with too much alcohol, like we do, but for them, the consequences are even worse. And from this experience, he learned not to let the thirst win. He was also not aware of the chain of events such circumstances would create. One of which was that the people of this particular village blamed the vampires for the plague that was happening at the time. Eventually, some hunters from that village captured and dismembered his mate. And he knew that they would come for him next, and it would be even worse for him if they caught him. But he chose to allow this to happen, wanting to be released from this existence and the curse. He describes being wrapped to a stake with kindling below it, which was then set on fire. And although his body was being burned, that's not what finally ended that life. What ended that life was that in that moment he had the ability to look back at all the pain he had caused and the overwhelming emotion and through the accumulation of the years. And that is what finally provided the gateway for his soul to leave the body. And he described that as he leaves his body, he notices the embers floating up and then disappearing into the night sky. He says, I'm like those fiery embers, and now I am free. And thus ended the second part of this amazing QHHT session. For the third part, I asked an aspect of himself that could give us information from the big picture perspective, and even more fascinating details were revealed. He said to avoid the limitations inherent in the human form, he did not have a human birth. He's what we refer to as a walk-in. So apparently there are other ways to enter and leave a human body other than the traditional birthing method. And he said before incarnating to experience himself in human form, he was a celestial being. And as a celestial being, while experiencing that life as a vampire, he had no feeling of his physical body, at least not the way we do. And this is because celestial beings don't feel like humans do through the five senses, apparently even when inhabiting a human body. He describes that they feel things in their entirety, and this is expressed more in vibrations and colors than sensations. And they truly live in the moment and recognize that the environment on Earth is just an illusion. So then I asked, what were the life lessons looking back at that entire lifetime? And first and foremost, he said to be mindful of how my actions affect others, and to cherish the time I have with those I love. He said that was one of his major regrets was, everybody he loved eventually died, and left him. He also learned to recognize that what humans have done, it's only what they know, and they haven't been taught otherwise. So over centuries of living that life as a vampire, he learned the capabilities of humankind and to the extent they would go to destroy themselves. He said he learned more about their behaviors and what they would do to each other. And in some sense, because of that, felt justified by his actions of killing and draining them, mainly because this is something they would do to themselves anyway. He also learned about their systems, especially in government, and the way mostly those in government or parliament manipulate others to serve them. And if humans could be immortal on the earthly plane, things would be even worse. Humans are not ready for earthly immortality yet. It was then revealed that as a celestial being, and I honestly don't know what that means or what that could be, maybe an angel, maybe a light being, but he's simultaneously living in a plane of existence he calls third heaven, or Sagun. He refers to it as his kingdom, the colors of amethyst and gold. And in this domain, this is a domain that's been assigned to him. And from there, he assists others who are between incarnations to help them pass through the void into their next physical incarnation, which I think sounds like a pretty cool job. I love my work. There is never a dull moment. If you would like a QHHT session, they typically run 3 to 4 hours or more. They're more like an event. You can go to my website and book one directly from my website. It doesn't matter where in the world you live, because I facilitate sessions via Zoom. So as long as you've got a good remote connection and we can hear and see each other, and mostly hear each other, we're good to go. I give these sessions for people all over the world. Would you like to hear about another one? One of the questions this client wanted to ask her higher self during her QHHT session was why she was the only one in her group who clearly saw silver spaceships while she was hiking near Mount Shasta in California. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mount Shasta is considered to be a very spiritual place. There's a energy vortex there, and I hear it's even considered to be one of the Earth's chakras. And it's a place where UFO sightings are common, as well as belief that there are beings from an ancient civilization living in crystal underground caves underneath Mount Shasta. So, my client drops into a past life in which she describes herself as a huge, strong, hairy man with hairy feet, wearing a bear-like animal skin about to the knee, and it's tied at the waist. He's carrying a large, pointed stick with which to hunt for food. So I ask, what do you hunt? And she says, dinosaurs, beasts, or eggs. On this day, he found a nest with 3 ginormous eggs. And he grabbed one, which is all he could handle, and started running before Mama Dinosaur, who's about at least 3 times his size, notices that one of her eggs is missing. So back at his cave, we discover he's the leader of a small tribe, including one unusual female he described as a hybrid. She has blonde hair and doesn't look like the rest of them. Even her clothes are different. They're made of white feathers. He came upon her during another hunting trip. She was just on the trail, and through nonverbal communication, she told him that she was afraid of the beings from the spaceships, they were trying to conduct experiments on her. And my client, agreed to protect her. In exchange, she would have sex with her when the desire came upon him, and she got protection and food. At first, I thought this lifetime may have been early Earth, but later it was revealed that this occurred on an entirely different planet, a planet that used to be part of the Milky Way. So then I had my client move forward to an important day in that life. And on this day, the whole tribe is running. The dinosaurs are running. Everybody's running. And the big hairy man, my client in that life, intuited that something bad, very bad, was about to happen. Then he sees that they're being pursued by this silver spaceship, which suddenly emits an energy distortion that destroys the whole planet. And then my client went on to describe the sense of peace at the end of that life. 1 minute running and fearful, and the next lying down and having a very profound sleep. Later in the QHHT session, as in all QHHT sessions, I request to speak with my client's higher self. When her higher self came forth, we got the following information. The hybrid woman was being experimented on by another race, also with spaceship capabilities, and they were trying to locate her to continue these experimentations. And the purpose was to find out how to repopulate their dying race. Now, the silver ship that destroyed the planet belonged to a different type of ETs. And there were no living beings on board the silver ship. Apparently they're able to control them at a great distance, somewhere in the Milky Way. And destroying the entire planet was deemed less disruptive to the order of things than continued atrocities on the hybrid woman. Then it was revealed that these are the same silver ships that currently visit Mount Shasta. This race of what we would call ETs are all about keeping the energies of the universe in harmony and balance, although they no longer take out entire planets to do so. So we're safe. That is not their intention here on Earth. And the reason my client can see spaceships around Mount Shasta is because she's already familiar with them from this past life. Now, this same client also wanted to know what that loud noise was as she was coming back down from her hike at the base of Mount Shasta, what the rumbling was in the bushes. And her higher self revealed that it was described like a door or a portal opening to the underground layers of the mountain. Makes me really want to visit Mount Shasta. Let me tell you a little bit about what QHHT is. So QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, was discovered by Dolores Cannon, who was first a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, and during her career, she discovered that the deeper one could relax, then the deeper into our mind and consciousness we can bring forth information. She discovered that any individual can gain access to experiences of not only current, but past, future, parallel, non-humanoid lives they have ever lived. And it was also exploring with clients in this state that she discovered an infinitely knowledgeable and powerful aspect that each individual has that can actually be contacted and communicated with. This part of ourselves is always present with us and exists just below the surface of it's not in our conscious mind, our analytical mind. So she chose to label it the subconscious. I actually prefer to call it the higher self. Other clients like to call it the superconscious, quantum consciousness, Christ consciousness, cosmic consciousness, that part of us that's beyond time and space. And the results experienced by QHHT clients conclusively support the finding that we have all lived multiple other existences, and we all have a subconscious or superconscious which contains the stored information that of all the experiences we've been through. And when we bring those forward, it can give us answers to questions we may have about ourselves pertinent to the current life we are living. And the more we can temporarily set aside the conscious beta brain, the ego-based brain, I call the small self, whose primary job is to filter the vast amount of information we are constantly receiving, we allow this subconscious or cosmic conscious to come forth and provide insight into the way bigger picture, because we are truly spiritual beings having a human experience. And this is what we are referring to through quantum healing. If you would like to experience a QHHT session, we can definitely make that happen. I facilitate sessions all over the world due to this lovely invention called Zoom. As long as we've got a good remote connection and can hear each other great, we're all quantumly entangled anyway. And remember that during a QHHT session, we're accessing that same level of yourself that you access when you're dreaming at night, when the world disappears and who knows where we go. It is truly an amazing technique. It's more like an event than a therapy session. People often have very spiritual experiences during one. And I always record the session so that you can then have all this information to listen to again and again. I can't wait to facilitate a session with you.